Welcome to Agoracom Interviews, a production of Agoracom, in which we speak to small cap influencers about what's going on in the small cap space. With us today, I got Leigh Hughes, who was just added as advisor to Mountain Valley MD, trades on the CSE under the stock symbol MVMD. Now, Mountain Valley MD has caught a lot of fire in the markets as of last Tuesday. There's a lot going on. A lot of it has to do with a video from Dr. Kory that we're going to watch here in a second. But Leigh was just appointed as advisor to the company. And in the press release, it says, company is pleased to announce the addition of Leigh Hughes as advisor to the company. Mr. Hughes will be supporting the company's work in the areas of M&A, corporate finance, and pharmaceutical licensing. Mr. Hughes brings over 15 years of professional experience in integrated corporate marketing communications and extensive experience in venture capital services and commercialization of private and public companies across the globe, North America, Australia, and the Asia Pacific region. He, along with another advisor, Mr. Senroy, the company says are going to bring some serious skill and horsepower to the company's next phase of growth for Mountain Valley. Leigh, welcome to the show.
George, thanks for having me on.
Man, that's quite the intro there by the company. I was just reading off what they had to say in their press release today. Before we start talking about Mountain Valley, give us a little more background on you as to why we've got you on here today and why you're going to be so important, why the company thinks you're going to be so important to its future.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me again. Have extensive background in capital markets. Have been fortunate enough to be able to be on client side and the other side over a long period of time. Cut my cloth in Australia with a lot of blue chips actually to begin with. Household names in Australia are like the likes of BHPs and the Rio Tintos and whatnot. So I was able to get some exposure to that environment. Then, as my career progressed, start to work with, incubating microcap companies into, eventual, hopefully, household names as well. I got introduced to Mountain Valley MD, a few weeks ago. I was doing my due diligence on the company and just couldn't believe, once lifting up the hood of all this unlocked value that existed within this business. Today's, I guess, if an official appointment, call it that, but I like to certainly get my hands dirty with a company prior to by, entering into, significant due diligence and seeing how I can possibly add value. And, I'm very, very fortunate that the company considers me to be able to do that, and, accompanying the likes of Sid Sinroy, who, if you Google him and have a look at his extensive background, I'm humbled to be in the presence of him, to be completely honest. So, I think between the two of us, we're going to be able to bring a bit of a different dynamic to the business and hopefully, provide, some support and more skills that the team there, which is an exceptional team, by the way, too, can utilize us for the development and the growth cycle for the business. Now,
the company seems like it really gained a lot of attention in the marketplace as a result of its resources in ivermectin, and a lot of people, including me, didn't even know that what that was a week ago. But on December 8th, there was a powerful video post online. We're going to watch this for a couple minutes. People need to watch this. It's Dr. Pierre Kory. He's an associate professor of medicine at St. Luke's Aurora Medical Center, and he delivers passionate testimony. I mean, I've never seen this before. He's almost berating the Senate hearing committee there, the Senate for and it was the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, to be specific. And he was talking about the power of ivermectin and what his team has found as what he's calling a miracle cure for COVID-19, or at least a miracle way to treat it. Not necessarily cure, but a way to treat it. So we're going to watch a couple minutes of video here, and then we're gonna come back to you.
Our next witness is here in person, Dr. Pierre Kory. Dr. Kory is the former associate professor and chief of the critical care service and medical director of the Trauma and Life Support Center at the University of Wisconsin, and recently joined the ICU service at Aurora St. Luke Medical Center in Milwaukee. He is board certified in critical medicine, pulmonary diseases, and internal medicine. Dr. Kory has traveled across multiple states in the U.S. to care for COVID-19 patients throughout the pandemic. He is also the president of the Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance, a nonprofit organization of critical care specialists led by Professor Paul Marik, whose mission over the last 9 months has focused on the research and development of effective treatment protocols for COVID-19 using repurposed drugs. He received his MD from St. George's University School of Medicine, and I'll only add that we added Dr. Kory very late to our hearing in May because I'd heard of his development of, anti-inflammatory steroids in critical care on COVID. And Dr. Kory, I have to tell you, I've had doctors come up to me and thank me for holding that hearing where they listened to you, change their thinking. They believe they've saved their patients' lives because of your testimony at that hearing. I hope your testimony will be as impactful today. Dr. Kory.
Senator, thank you, and thank you for holding this hearing. I just want to start out, I didn't think I'd have to say this, but I want to register my offense at the ranking member's opening statement. I was discredited as a politician. I am a physician and a man of science. I have done nothing but commit myself to scientific truth and the care of patients. And to hear that I'm here because of a political angle, I am not a politician, I'm a physician. I want to start out by saying that I'm not speaking as an individual, I'm speaking on behalf of the organization that I'm a part of. We are a group of some of the most highly published physicians in the world. We have near 2,000 peer-reviewed publications among us, led by Professor Paul Marik, who's our intellectual leader. We came together early on in the pandemic, and all we have sought is to review the world's literature on every facet of this disease, trying to develop effective protocols. You just mentioned that I was here in May, and I recommended that it was critical that we use corticosteroids in this disease when all of the national and international healthcare organizations said we cannot use those. That turned out to be a life-saving recommendation. I am here again today with a new recommendation. In the last 9 months, in our review of all of the literature as a group, again, we are some of the most highly published physicians in our specialty and the world. We have done nothing but try to figure out how to identify a repurposed and available drug to treat this illness. We have now come to the conclusion after 9 months, and I have to point out, I am severely troubled by the fact that the NIH, the FDA, and the CDC, I do not know of any task force that was assigned or compiled to review repurposed drugs in an attempt to treat this disease. Everything has been about novel and or expensive pharmaceutically engineered drugs, things like tocilizumab and remdesivir and monoclonal antibodies and vaccines. We have 100 years of medicine development. We know we are expert in all the medicines we use, and I do not know of a task force that has been focused on repurposed drugs. I will tell you that my group and our organization, I will say that we have filled that void. That is all we have done is focus on the things we know and things we do. And I'm here to tell you, Dr. Reiter, he just presented. He has one study of the many that I want to talk about. And I want to talk about that we have a solution to this crisis. There is a drug that is proving to be of miraculous impact. And when I say miracle, I do not use that term lightly. And I don't want to be sensationalized when I say that. That is a scientific recommendation based on mountains of data that has emerged in the last 3 months. When I am told, and I just had to hear this in the opening sentence, that we are touting things that are not FDA or NIH recommended, let me be clear. The NIH, their recommendation on ivermectin, which is to not use it outside of controlled trials, is from August 27th. We are now in December. This is 3 to 4 months later. Mountains of data have emerged from many centers and countries around the world showing the miraculous effectiveness of ivermectin. It basically obliterates transmission of this virus. If you take it, you will not get sick. I want to briefly summarize the data. My manuscript, again, published by some of the most, we have contributed more to the medical knowledge of our specialty in our careers than anyone else can claim as a group. And our manuscript, which was posted on Medicine Preprint Server, details all of this evidence. I want to briefly summarize it. Number one, we have evidence that ivermectin is effective not only in prophylaxis, in the prevention. If you take it, you will not get sick. We just came across a trial last night from Argentina by the lead investigator of ivermectin in Argentina, Dr. Hector Carvalho. They prophylaxed 800 healthcare workers. Not one got sick. In the 400 that they didn't prophylax with ivermectin, 58% got sick. 237 of those 400 got sick. If you take it, you will not get sick. It has immense and potent antiviral activity. We know that from the first study in Monash, it has made the bench to the bedside.
Leigh, I think that video lived up to its billing. Pretty powerful there. What does he know about ivermectin that the rest of us didn't know? And I want to hear your thoughts on it, given your background. And then we're going to go into Mountain Valley and what their angle is there.
Yeah, well, look, interestingly, and I guess full disclosure here, when I was doing my own due diligence on the business, Mountain Valley, and seeing, the impact that this business could possibly have in, the improvement of not just animal health, but also human health, and was getting presented the opportunity that ivermectin brings to the business over the next 20 years with a patent that they've just refiled. The COVID story was not even had never even come into the picture. The biochemists, the CEO and the executives at Mountain Valley MD wasn't even in the picture, right? So then all of a sudden, yes, like you're very, what you say is correct. Last Tuesday, I guess, a mini bomb got dropped down in the US from, Dr. Kory on, his interpretation through other studies and obviously a lot of data that's been captured from how ivermectin can possibly be, a treatment for COVID-19. Now, of course, we've got to be quite careful about making statements or claims that, haven't been supported by, real company data and evidence. So, that's to come. But sure, I mean, it's absolutely brought this, ivermectin story to the forefront. And, now that this is public too, the day after he made that, passionate speech down in the US, I mean, the day after he was speaking to the company, Mountain Valley MD.
And why was he speaking to Mountain Valley MD specifically? Give us some context on how Mountain Valley is using ivermectin.
Well, look, hopefully in the very, very near future, Dennis Hancock, the CEO, will hopefully be on the show and speaking to you with a little bit more technical knowledge than that.
Right. We're getting the broad strokes here.
Yeah. But, my understanding, the use of ivermectin for, human and animal health is something that, Mountain Valley MD has, which was the reason why they looked at refiling that patent, but under new types of guidelines, I think utilizing the delivery method that, Mountain Valley MD has, the unique delivery method, methods that they have behind the door there with ivermectin.
And let's talk about that, because you really explained to me really great, and offline when we were talking about trying to get me understand that people don't realize that there are issues with delivering vaccines of all kinds around the world, even polio and things like that. So what is about Mountain Valley's technology that give us the status quo?
Yeah.
How Mountain Valley could potentially be making that better.
Yeah, well, look, there's a lot of information that the company, I believe, is going to be sharing over the coming months, and as the company's going into the next phase of its growth cycle. But the thing that really excites me about this sector is that the COVID pandemic has obviously brought forward this vaccine story, right? And vaccines have been controversial around the globe as it stands anyway. The opinions of whether you take a vaccine or not, and that's a whole nother beast. But I learned just so much in a short period of time by the team at Mountain Valley MD about some of the challenges that exist across the globe in, being able to just logistically move and store vaccines globally, so that, how many billions of people in the world can hopefully get access to that. Polio is a perfect example. Some of the things that I didn't realize about the polio vaccine is that, part of the reason why polio hasn't been eradicated today is because of, it's just the logistics that it takes to get, the polio vaccine across the globe. I mean, the cold chain argument that, has come to the forefront because of, COVID-19 vaccine, and how can it be stored in a cold chain environment and get around to the globe so that everyone can access to it and things like that. There's certain parts of,
because what people don't realize, right, Leigh, is that vaccines, like almost everything else, have a bit of a shelf life, and you got to store them at proper temperatures. We all have this, I guess we all have, and I didn't realize until you had explained that to me last week. We all just think, all right, you just ship vaccine around these little vials, it gets shipped around, ends up somehow at the doctor's office, the clinic's office, pop, and it's over and everything's better.
Yeah.
And that may be true in North America, but around the world, it doesn't work that way. Talk to us about the challenges, temperature, storage, that the world has not, nobody in the world, even the Bill Gates Foundation, has not been able to solve this problem. Maybe just give us a little more.
Yeah, I will. And the company will soon too. But, you're very, very true. Cold chain environment, I believe, is, it needs to sit between a 2 and an 8 degree temperature, I believe. And then, obviously what happens is the longer it takes to, get, into someone's body, then you got to have the argument around efficacy. And, the company is working on a number of exciting things that can possibly assist with, better vaccination. Obviously, the ability to look at this cold chain argument and maybe be able to make major improvements in that area. The ability to improve the bioavailability of a vaccine, to the ability to be able to just increase efficacy. I think us all as people now, because of COVID, have had to take this, vaccine thing serious, a lot more serious, right?
Sure.
And, like I said, I think we're all learning. The biotech world is an amazing sector to be in. This year has been outstanding for the sector. I think it's, a little bit of forced transformation of the biotech plays, to all of us around the world because of COVID-19. Obviously, healthcare, medtech, all these types of things. And MVMD is just, right in the middle of this melting pot of quality companies that are coming to the, being pushed to the forefront now. And I truly believe MVMD is one of those.
And to be clear for everyone at home, even for me, Mountain Valley isn't producing a vaccine. It's not throwing itself into the vaccine pool, and that what it's providing is, if Georgecom makes a vaccine, whether it's COVID or polio, essentially what Mountain Valley's technology is able to do is just to make sure it gets delivered better. At the end of the day, is that, and I know I may be simplifying it, but is that oversimplifying it? Partly,
yes. And you raise another very good point there. Mountain Valley MD is what I was extremely blown away by is just how nimble, agile, and exceptional their team is. You're right. They're going to partner with Big Pharma, both on the animal and human side. To be able to provide formulations and technologies and skills to be able to improve, as you said, vaccines is part of it, but then, there's a whole other chain of things as well. And look, for APIs and molecules and existing drugs that already exist in the marketplace, you're seeing quite a lot of it actually. You're seeing, there's, how do we take that knowledge and just better improve it? There's a lot of companies that are seeking to do that. MVMD is one of them. And, like I said, I just feel like this business, it has just so much value to unlock that, it's a story that we've got a lot of time, hopefully, to tell. This isn't just a COVID story that's going to
Of
exist
course.
if COVID's here. I mean, COVID's going to be here for a long time anyway. It's not just going to be a company that exists as long as a real vaccination isn't global yet for COVID-19. This is a company that's existed for a while, and that's going to be able to work with major pharma on animal and human side for many, many years to come. And I know that having exciting conversations with a lot of great possible future partners. And look, we've obviously seen a bit of a spike in the value of the company, valuation of the company in recent times here. And sure, COVID might be having a lot to do with that. But like I said, I think it's very important for people to watch this story and understand that there's just a hell of a lot to it, or more to it than just, being a COVID-19 solution. And they will hear about a lot of that hopefully through your platform, George, as well, in the coming weeks and months. And
look, anybody who watches Agoracom know that one thing that's so important to us is third-party validation. Because the fact of the matter is that George and Leigh could start up George Lee Small Cap and say we're curing the world of anything, or that's our goal. But really, who else believes it? Who else is behind it? And in addition to you being appointed to the board as an advisor today, the company also appointed Mr. Senroy. I forget his first name, sorry, but Mr. Senroy. And I'm going to read off just what Sid Senroy, what he's done here. So over the past two decades, he successfully led several global quality and compliance business units as an executive or senior consultant, leading the approval of key blockbuster drugs with cumulative sales exceeding $30 billion annually over the last 10 years. $30 billion annually. So what does it say about Mountain Valley that someone like Sid Senroy has agreed to be appointed as an advisor to the company? Because I would imagine someone like him has no shortage of opportunity. So what does that tell you, even as you're doing your research on Mountain Valley, about the company?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head with one word there, George: validation. If that's not your validation right there, peer validation, exceptional peer validation, then nothing will be. You just got to look up the gentleman and see the pedigree of the man and who he's worked with. He's worked with exceptional teams in the space and in the sector. And I'm sure that we're going to hear more from him in the future.
We'll have him on too.
Yeah, his knowledge set and skill set of the sector, not just in the US but across the globe, is somewhat second to none. And having someone of that caliber sitting there as an advisor for when a business like MVMD is having the opportunity to present to, top 5, top 10, top 20 pharma, call it what you want, on both the human and animal side, when it comes to discussions around possible licensing agreements, partnerships, research and development projects. I mean, he's your guy right there. So, the company is, like I said to you before, exceptionally surprised. It shouldn't be the word, but it's great to see a company that's, so nimble and agile and just knows where their gaps are and just are there to fill it. I think we've been able to do more than just fill a gap with the appointment.
Yeah, that's not. I'm filling a gap.
Mr. C.
If you appoint George to the board as an advisor, I'm filling the gap. This guy doesn't fill the gap. This thing, Sid Senroy takes the company to another level in terms of just knowledge. Because you said all over the world. In fact, in the press release, says extensively through North America, Europe, Asia, and South America. So he basically he's touched pretty much everything but Africa. When it comes down to a serious track record. So yeah, we'll have him back for sure. By the way, you've mentioned on a couple of notes for people at home to clarify, You've said animals and humans. It may be clear to some, but not to all, that animals require vaccines as well. For example, we've all seen that one animal that seems to be bearing the brunt of COVID-19 are mink, where literally tens of millions of them have had to be killed because they caught the virus and they can spread it pretty extensively between them. So that's a sizable market as well, correct?
Honestly, it's just when you start
Maybe bigger.
when you start. I honestly believe I was mind blown when I really got to get some really good solid insight into the company as to how large the animal health market really is. I mean, and it makes sense because if you think about, Zika virus and malaria and COVID-19, I mean, you think about what happens that's passed to us through human contact with obviously the mosquito bloodborne viruses with Zika and malaria. So, it really does make sense. If we can better prepare and nurture the animals that we obviously consume, then it naturally is going to be improving, the health of the human. I mean, I know the company is going to explain it in a lot more technical.
Of course. Yeah. You're not the technical guy. We know that part. You're the corporate M&A side and all that.
That market is just, it's just huge. It's mind blowing actually. And I'm scared to even say numbers. I'm going to be honest with you.
Better you don't. No,
and look, to be honest, and you're going to hear from the team, Dennis Hancock, the CEO, worked with most Fortune 50 companies. He's been in multi-billion-dollar conglomerates, so he knows how to make things tick. He knows where to unlock the magic. The technical and the science team there are outstanding. So you're going to get a lot of nice content in the coming time here on the business, and that'll be able to explain a lot more than what I can in terms of the different lanes that the company moves in. But all it takes is for one of these lanes to get a little bit more traffic and.
Well, look, you've got, maybe we can touch on this to the extent that you can. Again, third-party validation. You're talking about lanes and I like the way you're being humble and conservative about, where it may go. But the fact of the matter is Dr. Kory, who was in front of the U.S. Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee and gave that passion, unbelievable testimony, called Mountain Valley for a reason. Maybe we can end it there. Like, can you give us some insight as to, not specifics, obviously, but we're talking about, what did Dr. Kory hear about Mountain Valley that made him pick up the phone, right? He picked up the phone. You guys didn't pick up the phone. He picked up the phone.
Yeah, one thing I can tell you is that, Dr. Kory and also many others are taking the link between ivermectin and Mountain Valley very, very serious. I don't want to jump on anyone's parade, especially Dennis's, because the CEO, he'll be able to tell you a lot more. But, one of the things that I can tell you is that, the conversations that have happened between Dr. Kory and Mountain Valley, being through Dennis, the CEO, have been very much aligned with each other, from a sense that they will absolutely be following up back and forth and as things progress with ivermectin. There's a lot more that I'd like to be able to say, of course, but just now, obviously being a bit more of an official role, I got to be a little bit careful. But
sure.
When you've got a company that like Mountain Valley MD, that's when you research the ivermectin patents and you see that literally Mountain Valley's got it in front with being able to use its drug delivery platform for the next 20 years. I mean, that's more reason to be close contact with the company than not, I would think. So, yeah, I'm very, very excited to see how that unfolds, and I'm sure that the company is going to be able to share more about that in coming days, weeks, or months.
Well, Leigh, look, I appreciate you being on here, and my job is to gently try and prod you, see how far we can go as far as information. And I think you've gone pretty far, but at the same time, yeah, we know that you're limited in what you can say until the company has more of it to say. But, look, this was I don't know what, how many interviews have been done or what's out there, but I know there are a lot of people who really want information on Mountain Valley MD, especially for the last 4 or 5 days. So I think even this will be very helpful to everybody that's been taking a look and wants to know some more information. And look, you're being humble, but the fact of the matter is the company said some pretty incredible things about you. And when they say that you, along with Sid Senra, are adding some serious skill and horsepower to the next phase of growth, the inference is there's a reason why the company's taken on people like Sid Senra and you, and there's a reason why people like you guys are joining when the company says next phase of growth. So we'll leave it there. We'll have Dennis Hancock on sometime really soon, hopefully in the next couple of days before people start packing up for the holidays, which may not happen this year. I think everyone's at home anyway, so there may be more reason to be watching. But Leigh, thanks so much. And you know what? Congratulations to your appointment, man. Big respect to you, given what the company had to say about you, and can't wait to see what you're going to do in your specialty area as an advisor to the company.
Yeah, thanks. And one thing I'll say is I'm sure there's going to be a lot more talent that gets appointed to hopefully in the coming weeks and months as well, because, as you know, once a story becomes in the limelight, you sort of pop in front of a lot of screens and a lot of eyes and a lot of ears, sort of come onto you. And yeah, I mean, the business is like I said, and I'll continue to say it, they're extremely humble, nimble, and agile business, and they're always looking for, to fill those gaps. So look forward to being able to share more, George.
Thanks for joining us. For everyone at home, you've been watching, or if you've been listening by a podcast, to Leigh Hughes, newly appointed advisor to Mountain Valley MD, that trades on the CSE under the stock symbol MVMD. Thanks for joining us today. Make sure to keep doing your due diligence on Mountain Valley. We know a lot of you, again, they're not a client of Agoracom, hoping to be, but we know a lot of you out there have been doing a lot of research and obviously a lot of activity. Look, we're in the middle of the day today, and it's got over 13 million shares traded around 1 o'clock. So clearly there's a lot of activity out there, and hopefully we just helped you discover your next great small cap company. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time.